Are you a Freya?
Hey, Ryuki.
As I thought. Then you've realized this world is fictional. Am I correct?
Ryuki, what's gotten into you?
Then please tell me the nil number. If you truly are a Freya, you should know it.
What you just saw was a secret ending from the game I, the Somnium Files Nirvana Initiative, a game all about an evil cult-like organisation who believe they're living in a simulation, so are attempting to break out of it. I mean, they aren't wrong, they are all characters in a video game, and confirming their suspicions by inputting information you learn at the end of the game, here in one of the earliest chapters, results in what you just saw, the world glitching out and breaking down, showing you a Matrix-like world beyond the confinements of the simulation. The real world, according to Tokiko. I'd highly recommend playing it yourself if you haven't already, it's an amazing game, and also where this theory gets its roots. If you've played that game before, maybe you already know where this is going, but when I equipped the AR mask in FNAF Ruin for the first time, that scene from Somnium Files is immediately what came to mind, and so I speculated. They tell us in Ruin that we are in the real world, and when we put on the mask, we enter the AR world, but what if in actuality it's the other way around? Well, not exactly, but almost. What I mean is, I thought it would be a fun idea that if what they call the AR world is actually the game's code itself, or some other sort of bridge in between the world of the game and our world as players. That would explain why we can pass through objects that should be blocking our path, or straight up delete them entirely. What if we are rewriting the game code, or navigating around it to suit our needs and create a path forward? Although that's all it was, just a fun idea. I didn't really have any evidence to back it up, so it stayed locked away in my folder of potential theories. Written off and almost forgotten about. That is, until we replayed possibly the best entry in the FNAF game series, that everybody loved and had zero controversy. FNAF World. Yep, we decided to repay a visit to the only FNAF game I haven't fully completed, the spin-off I sort of wrote off. The gameplay is cute and all, but nothing that exciting, and it's not even considered a mainline game. It's not canon, so any lore we do get from this game is questionable at best. Although Scott said the books aren't canon, and look how that turned out. There was one main reason I decided to revisit this game though. Not only is it possibly the precursor to what Scott dubbed FNAF Into Madness, but it's also the only other time in the series we see two parallel worlds, a real world and a glitched world, just like in Ruin. I was doubtful we would find anything useful, but I wanted to take a look around just in case, and oh boy, we definitely found something. Right off the bat, Fredbear tells us this about the glitched world.
This is a safe haven, a sanctuary. I think you can use these fractures to get to places you couldn't reach before.
Now compare that to Ruin. If it weren't for the Mexis system, the AR world would be a safe haven. It even makes us invisible to certain animatronics that would otherwise attack us. And the main use of putting on the mask is to get to areas we can't reach otherwise. Then 8-bit Fredbear follows up with this.
Yes, the world beneath the surface world. The truth is that there is no safe place.
Oddly enough, the AR world in Ruin is actually a replica of the normal game world placed beneath it. And just like 8-bit Fredbear tells us, the truth is there is no safe place. Even if the Mexis system can't kill us there, it can call upon other animatronics to pull us out of the AR world to kill us. Even if it is a safe place we can try to escape to, it's no sanctuary. This may just be a coincidence, but if these connections are intentional, this means FNAF World is extremely important to uncovering the secrets of Ruin's AR world. So I dug a little bit deeper, and I may have just figured it out. If we are considering the glitched world in FNAF World to be what the AR world is to Ruin, then we may have only seen the surface of what the AR world is capable of. Literally. Because in FNAF World we are warned to never go more than 3 glitches deep in the flip side. If we ignore this advice, and after entering the 4th subtunnel, we are greeted by Old Man Consequences, who has this to say to us.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to say that you've gone too deep into the code. There's no way back out now.
Wait, the code? Does that mean that glitched world or flip side we enter was the game's code all along? This was where I started getting excited because my dumb little theory, based purely on speculation because of a completely different game, actually may have credibility. So I looked around more and found an interesting selection of enemies you encounter in the game. An animatronic that vaguely looks like Freddy, whose name is Prototype. A Mangle variant named Tangle, which is the same as the official name in the game files for what we affectionately nicknamed the Blob. But while these are cool to find and fascinating to think about if they actually mean anything, they are weak connections at best that don't really give us anything concrete to work with. And that's when I found it. A security system with two differently coloured eyes. Security Owl. My theorist neurons activated seeing this, albeit it's not the same coloured eyes as the storyteller, aka Tiger Rock, and it's also an owl, not a tiger, but this was too intriguing of a connection to ignore, and so I decided to read the story Tiger Rock in its entirety, and what do I find? Kai was looking at a metallic owl, one sculpted like the animatronics in the future Pizzaplex. When it had opened its eyes, Kai had clearly seen that the owl had one emerald green eye and one bright blue one. He spotted a small white owl. It was an average, unremarkable feathered owl. Tiger Rock shot up into view, his glittery robe spread wide around him like giant owl wings. So Kai encounters owls twice in the Tiger Rock story, which isn't a lot but weird that it happened twice, and then references how Tiger Rock's outfit reminded him of the wings of an owl. These are oddly coincidental details to call out, no? A metallic owl with mismatched eyes in FNAF World, and Tiger Rock known for his mismatched eyes, clearly having a connection to owls. This has to be intentional, and we know in the books that the Tiger Rock animatronic, aka the storyteller, is an upgraded form of the Mimic. And seeing as this animatronic has the ability to change forms in the books, an owl form may very well be one of them. It's also interesting to note here that in the Halloween edition of FNAF World, this enemy looks completely different, looking more like one of the humanoid endos, but with noodle arms and a security camera for a face. Perhaps this is more evidence towards his ability to change forms, and the inclusion of a CCTV camera for a head did make me think of how the Mimic is likely linked up to all the systems of the Pizzaplex, like the storyteller is in the books, and is watching our every move during Security Breach and Ruin. So what does all this mean? FNAF World was released way before any mention of the Mimic, Tiger Rock or the AR world. Could Scott really have planned this far ahead? Bear in mind, FNAF World released right before Sis Location back in 2016. But if FNAF World was indeed meant to be the precursor to FNAF Into Madness, then even if the details don't match up 100%, this game could have been using these details to plant the seed for the developments of the story we are encountering now in Ruin and the Tales of the Pizzaplex books. And the way we are seeing these connections back to FNAF World now, with us heading back to Sister Location in the form of Help Wanted 2 in a few months, feels suspicious considering how FNAF World led into Sister Location, which released later that same year as well. What I'm trying to say is, I don't believe Scott would have planned this far ahead. Instead, what I believe is happening here is we are now in a sense cycling back to things FNAF World was setting up. If FNAF World was planting the seeds with their ideas, we are now reaping what was proverbially sown using Ruin and the books. Allow me to put this another way. FNAF World is not a mainline game, therefore not canon. A fun little spin-off game with some fun ideas that was meant to be the precursor to FNAF Into Madness. Security Breach Ruin DLC shares similarities in the sense of a parallel or glitched world, characters misguiding you to push their own agenda, plus the Mimic's appearance tells us the books are now becoming very important background knowledge in order to understand the game's lore, which means the appearance of an animatronic with mismatched eyes and a connection to owls is also suspicious. What if the Ruin DLC is the actualization into the mainline games of ideas Scott had back during the creation of FNAF World? What if the Ruin DLC and the current storyline of the books is the canon precursor to FNAF Into Madness, taking the ideas FNAF World was playing around with and implementing them into the current story? So, what game would that mean FNAF Into Madness is meant to be? Why, Help Wanted 2, of course. Scott did say he wanted Into Madness to be a mashup of games, where mini-games connected to create a single experience. If the first Help Wanted is anything to go off of, then Help Wanted 2 will be exactly that. Or perhaps we're already deep into Madness, with this whole arc of the FNAF story we are in collectively being FNAF Into Madness. The point is, there seems to be a connection between the current state of the story to the new ideas and themes we were shown in FNAF World that were never seen again until Ruin. Looking at FNAF World again with this in mind, I believe the most important feature that we have yet to see in the current FNAF games or books is the idea that the glitched world or flipside has multiple layers, as this would imply the AR world seen in Ruin may similarly have deeper levels than we've seen so far. But we may have had a sneak preview of them during Chapter 3, when Cassie teleports into a tunnel, clearly separate from Gatorgov where she was, and behind the stage where there is an endless sea of glitched looking textures. Both reached by travelling through weird glitchy looking doors we never see again after this chapter. If we end up revisiting the AR world in a game later in the series, it's impossible to say at the moment if these deeper levels will serve much purpose outside of allowing us to traverse further in the AR world in order to navigate more obstacles in the game world, although I hold out hope that there will be a bad ending where we go 4 levels deep and see an updated version of Old Man Consequences. Also, if there is a connection between FNAF World's flipside and Ruin's AR world, then seeing as we are told the flipside is the game code, let's assume the same is true for the AR world in Ruin. Navigating and rewriting game code would explain a lot of what Cassie is capable of after all. But it also begs the question, are there any characters who have realised they are in a video game as a result? Which sounds like a dumb question, until you remember that Glitchtrap managed to escape the code of the Help Wanted VR game into the wider FNAF game world that they consider the real world. What if Glitchtrap escaped Help Wanted through Vanessa, only to discover he was still in a video game? How would he react? He would likely try to escape that game as well, until he reaches the real world. What about Vanessa or Cassie? As they've used the AR world before, maybe they've realised its technology is a little too unrealistic. If they start questioning reality, what would they do? Use it to their advantage? Try to break free? Or will it drive them to madness? I'm starting to think this whole series is just a FNAF version of Inception at this point, because the books also reference characters being unable to identify the difference between reality and the worlds of games and VR, and multiple times characters get trapped in a VR world and have to try to escape, some successful, others less so. For example, during Tiger Rock, Kai is unsure of whether he ever left the VR world or is just hallucinating various abnormalities in the real world. Once he's convinced he is still in the VR world, he successfully forces his way out. A very similar situation happens in Under Construction, where Maya uses possibly the same AR booth as Kai earlier in the timeline, and after many strange occurrences, she realises the weirdness all started after she supposedly left the AR booth, leading her to wonder if she's actually still inside it, but she dies before she can figure it out. Then again in Drowning, Kara gets stuck in a VR water park and struggles to find a way out, eventually dying as well. Basically, the books reference multiple times the idea of characters trying to escape a virtual world. So maybe that's telling us that this will be a plot point for the future games. If characters learn they are in a virtual world in the series, they will try to escape. Hey, maybe it could even be that the games we are playing are actually games or virtual experiences within the FNAF universe. I mean, we already know the games up to Pizzeria Simulator do exist in the FNAF universe, as does Scott Cawthon. It's also interesting that in Monty Within, Kane suggests people's brains are like computers and artificial intelligence, using research that doesn't exist in our world. Maybe it's just because it's a fictional story, or maybe Kane had realised they're all living in a computer system. In conclusion, I think the AR world we use in FNAF Ruin is actually a way for the characters to access and navigate the game's code. And I think we need to look into FNAF World more, as there appears to be a connection there and I've only scratched the surface of that game. But because the game isn't canon, we should treat it like the books, where we use important details there as supporting evidence, as it may not be one-for-one translated into the game's canon. I also think that the future games are going to use the AR world a lot more, and as a result get a lot crazier. I mean, we've already had characters escape a video game world in universe before, and the books are constantly mentioning how the line between the real and the fake is blurring. The AR world may be a bridge in between the world of the game and our world as players. And that power currently lies in Cassie's hands, as she holds the Vanny mask. Will she use it to try to escape the game, or collapse the game world from within? So Cassie, would you mind if I asked you a question? Are you perhaps a Freya? But hey, that's just speculation and hypothesis. A game speculation and hypothesis. Doesn't really roll off the tongue as well, does it? I'll admit this theory may be a bit more of a stretch than my last one, but it's a very fun theory to think about, and I was surprised by how much supporting evidence for it I was able to find through FNAF World and the books. As always, I'm not saying that I think this is exactly how things will play out, just one of the many paths open for Steelwool to take the story. But I think this route would be a lot of fun, and would open up for some really cool story progressions, like revisiting and getting more elaboration on Old Man Consequences for one, or seeing how they may try to break the fourth wall. And I don't seem to be alone in this either. While writing this script, Game Theory released their video and they spoke about the AR world being the Pizzaplex's network, which I don't disagree with here, as being the whole game's code, it would include the AI routines and functions that controls the animatronics, among other things. Perhaps this new iteration of the Dream Theory is that the whole series is just a simulation, VR experience, or one big video game, and Into Madness is named as such because we as players have no idea what's real or what's not in the lore anymore. Feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you've come this far in the video, maybe you wouldn't mind helping me out by liking and subscribing as well. If this video does as well as the last video did, maybe we can catch the attention of John, FNAF or Game Theory to give their thoughts on them. But for now, thanks for watching, and maybe I'll catch you in one of my live streams sometime.